Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin and I'm going to be running this demo for you today. Thank you all for joining. So just to kick things off, we're just going to go through a bit of what we're going to be covering today. If you have any questions, please pop them in the questions box and we'll get them to the at the end of the webinar. So yeah. Okay, so today we're going to be covering a few things. We're going to be going through the benefits of ePayroll and the key features of ePayroll, including employee data, employee self-service, web-based leave management, and how to run a payroll. We'll also go through how you can create your own ePayroll account if you haven't already. So just a little bit about ePayroll. We were Australia's first online payroll software, established back in 2004, and we do have over 25 plus years of payroll experience. We process over $2.3 billion in wages per year, and we are part of the Ready Tech group, ready for the future of work. So what are some of the benefits of ePayroll? So ePayroll is simple to use. It is designed for the non-payroll specialist. We're available anywhere, anytime, and you can access your payroll data from any location whenever you need it. Payroll data can also be processed remotely or off-site, and employees also have access to their own payroll and leave information whenever they need it. ePayroll is cost effective. We have different packages to suit your specific needs, and there's no need to manage your own payroll software maintenance or deal with service maintenance problems. So ePayroll is a software that simplifies your business. We save you time by simplifying your payroll process by automating employee payments, superannuation, PAYG, and payroll tax. We also provide employees with payslips online and with a web-based leave management. We also integrate with most accounting packages, including Xero, Accounts IQ, MYOB, NetSuite, and J-Curve. And we are secure and reliable. So we have a secure SSL with a 256-bit encryption, and we are ISO certified. All of your data as well stays within Australia in a Tier 1 data center. So now we're going to take a quick look at ePayroll. So I'm just going to jump onto our ePayroll account. So what you can see here is what you would see logged in as the administrator or payroll person on your account. So this is the home page where you'll see some overviews of what's happening on your account. You'll see some graphs with some payroll information, leave information, things like that. There's also an employer message here. So this employer message can be configured to show whatever you need. If you need to get messages across to your staff, you can put a message in here so that they see it when they log into their account as well. If you're an employee of the company as well as the payroll person, you'll also see your payslips and leave accrual information on this homepage as well. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the employees. So if we go to the employees tab, this is where you'll be able to view employees that have already been added to the system, but you'll also be able to add new employees by clicking on the new employee button up the top here. So the first things that you'll need to do to add a new employee to your account is just enter their general information. So things like their name, email address, home address, birthday, things like that. Some of the key information that you'll need to enter here is the start date. So it's really important to get that start date correct because you won't be able to actually change that start date once it's been entered into the system. So the start date is the date that they started with your company, not the date that you're entering them into ePayroll. So that start date will also determine their long service leave accrual. So if you get that wrong, we would need to make some manual adjustments for that as well. The other really important fields in this category here is the state employee field. So if you're liable to pay payroll tax, this state employee field will determine where those payments are going. There's also an option to put an employee code in if you've got your own employee codes in your company, or if you want to start doing that, that's something you can enter into the system as well. Going down, we've got the in case of emergency details. So this is really handy for you to enter the employees in case of emergency details. So if there ever is an emergency for any reason, you know exactly where to go to grab that information, and you can access that at any time from any location. So you can be at home and still know where to grab that information. Going down, we've got some other information, so we can configure a few things to be in this, depending on what you'd like to be able to enter into the system. So some of the examples here are security pass number. If your building has a security pass, you can enter that in here. There's also options to put a preferred name in, or even some notes if you wish. So next we've got the web roles. So the web roles are designed to give an employee a certain amount of access to the system. So the three main web roles you'll give to an employee at this step here is the employee self-service user, the expense user, and the leave user. So these three web roles here, so the employee self-service user web role will allow them to basically log into the system, access their pay slips, their payment summaries, to be able to view the information and a few more things. The expense user and leave user will basically just allow them to apply for leave or expenses. So they'll need that web role if you're using our leave expense management tool. The other web roles here are for more of an authority access. So you won't actually be able to give the employees this web role at this stage. If they do require a more of authority access, you can add that to them after you've entered them into the system. So going down next, we've got the payment details section. So this is where you'll enter their salary or hourly rate and what payment group they are to be assigned to. So you'll choose their payment group, and depending on the payment group and how that's configured, it will either let you put a salary or an hourly rate in. So it won't actually let you put both in. The system will automatically calculate the alternate hourly rate or salary for you based off the standard hours. So for example, if we entered a salary of $50,000 off its standard 76-hour fortnight, the system will calculate that their hourly rate is $25. If we change the standard hours to 80 hours per fortnight, it's going to automatically change that hourly rate too. This goes vice versa as well. So if we were putting an hourly rate in, it would calculate the salary the same way. So going down, we've got the pay code selections. This is where you'll select the pay codes that you'll give to your employee so that they have access to be given certain types of payments. So we do suggest to tick every pay code that is available so that you don't need to go in and give them the pay code later once you've added them in. But that's up to you. If you only want to give them a few at this step, that's completely however you want to set that up. The really handy thing about this as well is that you can add a default value. So default values are the values that will be populated into the open payroll each week. So if you leave it at 0, each week you'll need to manually put the amount in. But for example, if they're getting a $100 car allowance for the fortnight, if you enter that into the default value, that's what's going to be automatically populated each week. So you won't need to do any manual work for that. Okay, next we've got the primary super funds. So you'll add the employee super funds to the accounts before we get to this step. And then you'll choose their super fund from the drop-down list here. So all the super funds in ePayroll are compliant super funds, so you can ensure that you are paying an employee to a compliant super fund. And you'll choose their super fund and enter their member number. We also have the option to automate super payments. So if that's something you're interested in, you can get in touch with us for that. Next, we've got the initial accruals. So this is where you'll enter the employees' leave entitlements if they've already accrued some from other payroll systems. So this is just to ensure that they're getting the correct leave entitlements. If they have 40 hours of annual leave on the system you're currently using, you can enter that here. And then when you run your first payroll, the leave will accrue on top of that 40 hours instead of starting back at 0. You won't need to enter the start long service leave weeks if you put that start date in correctly at the top. The system will automatically calculate that for you. So next we've got the taxation details section. So this is where you'll enter all the information they give you from the tax file declaration form. So we send this information off to the ATO every 14 days, so you don't need to manually do that yourself. That's something that we do for you. The tax file number also is checked for validity, so you can't put an incorrect tax file number into the system. We'll flag it before you're able to save it. So this is just to ensure that you're paying the employees to the correct tax file number, especially with STP that's been introduced. It's more important than ever to have that tax file number correct to ensure that the data is being sent to the ATO correctly and is up to date after every payroll. Going down, we've got the PAYG variation. So this is where if the employee has an agreement with the company or with the ATO themselves for a different tax rate, you can pop those details in there and the system will calculate that each week for you. Okay, next we've got the primary payment methods. So this is where you enter the employee's bank account details. So there is options to add up to 2 bank account details here if the employee wants to split their pays up into 2 separate bank accounts. You can add more than 2 bank accounts to an employee's account if they wish to split it up into 3 or 4 or even 5 bank accounts. But we do find that having the option to add 2 bank accounts on this step does suit 95% of our clients. So if they do need to add a 3rd or 4th bank account, that's something that can be added after they're in the system. So just like the tax file number, the bank-based fee is also checked for validity, so you can ensure you're paying to a correct bank account. Lastly, on the new employees page, we've got the cost centers. So this is where you'll enter the cost centers, all departments that the employee works for, and you can even split up their pay into different cost centers if they have different job roles within the company. So you just choose a cost center and enter the default hours here. So these default hours that you enter on this step are the hours that will be populated into your open payroll each week. So to ensure you don't need to do any extra manual work each week when you're running your payroll, it's really important to get that correct so that the hours are automatically there for you. You don't need to make any extra manual changes. Okay, so once you've added all that in, the employee will be added into the system and they'll be set up, if you've given them the employee self-service web role, to be able to log in and create a password for themselves. So what I'm going to do now is jump in and look at what an employee sees from their side of things when they log in with their access. So the homepage for an employee, as you can see here, is a bit similar to the administrator's homepage, except it doesn't have any of the payroll information for them. So they'll be able to see their leave requests, their pay slips, and any other kind of information that they might be useful on this homepage. There's also that employer message that you can configure as well that pops up as soon as they log in. So if we go to the My Account Home tab over on the left-hand side, this is where they'll be able to see the details in the system in a bit more of an overview. So they'll be able to have a look at everything that's been added, their exact salary, what super they've been assigned to, and their tax file details. All that kind of information will be on this page and they can view. They won't necessarily be able to add or change any of these, but just having it there for them to view to make sure that everything's correct. If they go to their personal details tab, this is where they'll be able to change some information if required. So as you can see, the information like their name and birthday cannot be changed, it's grayed out, but things like their email address and home address, mobile numbers, that can all be changed or edited if the employee wishes. So going down, they'll be able to add their own in case of emergency details in. They'll also be able to add some notes in if they want the payroll person or managers to get to know them a bit better. They can add some notes about themselves in there as well. They also will be able to see their web roles. So they'll be able to see the access they have to the system. So this is really useful to ensure that they know exactly what they can and can't do on the ePayroll account. So that they know that they can apply for leave, but they can't go in and view another employee's salary. So having that there is a really useful tool as well. So next we've got the payment methods tab on the left-hand side. So this is where they'll be able to add or change any bank account details on the account. So if they've got a new bank account or anything like that, they come in here to edit it or change it. We can configure this so that they can't edit or change this. They'll just be able to view the bank account details. If that's something you want and you'd rather them come to you to make those changes to their account, that's also a possibility to set up on this page as well. So next we've got the current payslip and payslip history tab. So the current payslip will of course bring you to the most current payslip on the account, but the payslip history will show you an overview of all the payslips that they have been given while using ePayroll. So they'll be able to choose the financial year from the drop-down list at the top here, and then to view the payslip, they just click on the tab here. So this is a payslip that will be generated from the ePayroll account. So they'll be able to see all their general information at the top here, the description and the payments that are getting made. They'll also be able to see the year-to-date details and even their leave entitlements on the payslip as well. So the leave entitlement section can be configured a few ways. So we can also show personal leave or RDOs on the payslip if that's something you want the employees to be able to see how much accrual they have. With long service leave, we can show that if it's after 7 years, we can show that after 10 years, or we can not show it at all. That's completely up to you and how you want the employees to have access to those accruals. So next we've got the payment summary. So the payment summary tab will bring up any payment summaries that's been issued to them. And just like the pay slips, they've got the financial year tab here. The payment summaries and pay slips can both be downloaded from the system, so the employees can keep a copy for themselves. So they can email a copy here, they can save a copy to the computer, or they can print a copy. So that's the same with the pay slips as well. They can export that whichever way they want. Next, we've got the accruals history tab. So they'll be able to see exactly how their annual leave and long service leave weeks are accruing, and if they've taken leave, it will show that as well. So just like the pay slips, we can configure this to show personal leave and RDOs as well. That's up to you on how you'd like that configured. Lastly, on this My Account tab, we've got the documents. So this is where you can upload documents that you might find the employee needs to view or keep up to date with certain information. You can upload those documents here so that they have access to view that and stay compliant with their job role. So you can upload things like inductions, any new information that the employee needs to have. So that's completely up to you on how you use that. So next I'm going to show you the leave and expense management and how an employee applies for leave. So what I'll do first is show you this projected leave tool. So this is where an employee can project how much leave they're going to have at a certain date. So if they need to know before applying for leave if they're going to have enough leave to cover that, they can come to this tool here. So what they need to do, it will project from a certain date and it will show their current balance. They'll then choose a date in the future, and it will project their annual leave to that date. The system will take into account if there has been leave that's already approved in the system, but it won't take into any account any leave applications that are still being processed or cancelled or anything like that. So that's a good tool so employees can ensure they have the correct amount of leave before they apply. So to apply for leave, they go to the Leave and Expense homepage, and there's an Apply Leave button here. It will take them to a leave request form, which they will then be able to fill out and submit to their approving manager. So there's a few things that you might need to note for this page. So across the top here, there's a message that's configured. So this is something that you can configure on your end and in your setup, and it can say whatever you want it to say. Most of our clients use this message to convey a message of the kind of documentation they might need if they're applying for a certain type of leave or anything like that. So that can be used however you like that. So when the employee is applying for leave, they'll be able to see a few things. They'll be able to exactly see who their leave approver is and who that's getting sent to be approved. If they've got more than one position in the company, they'll be able to choose that there as well. And they'll be able to choose the type of leave. So if they need to apply for personal leave, once they have access to apply for long service leave, that will also be an option here, all those kinds of things. They'll then choose a start date or an end date of the leave. So I'll just quickly choose a date in the future. So the system will automatically calculate how many working days and how many hours are in the period that we choose. So from the start date to the end date here, the system works out that there's a total of 5 working days. If there was any public holidays or weekends within that period, it would also calculate that. Then according to the standard hours that we've popped into the system when we added them as a new employee, it will manually calculate how many hours are in that system. There's also an option to set up leave schedules if you have part-time employees, so that the system knows exactly what days they work and how many hours they work, so it can correctly apply the hours here. The employer will also have access to add any comments to the leave or add an attachment if necessary as well. Once they're happy with the leave request, they click Submit Leave Form, and once the leave has been submitted, the approving manager and the employee will both receive emails to let them know that it has been submitted and it's waiting for approval. So I'll quickly jump back in and log in as an administrator again, and I'll go to our leave and expense page. So what you'll be able to see here is the leave request that we've just submitted. So that will pop up on the approving manager's leave page. They'll also be able to see any other leave applications for any other employees that they are approvers for, and they'll be able to see any old leave applications as well. You'll be able to see the status on the side here, whether it's still processing or whether it's been accepted, and so forth. So one of the really handy tools that I'm going to show you now is our leave roster. So before this leave application is accepted or declined, we need to make sure that there's going to be enough staff to cover that period. So you can come to this leave roster and put a start and end date in here, and just check that those dates aren't going to be full with leave already. So if we display all employees in this roster, we can see that there's only one employee on leave. And if you hover over the coloured boxes here, it will give you a bit more information about the leave that's been applied for here. So you'll be able to see whether the application has been accepted, whether it's still processing, and what hours and exact days that the employee has applied for as well. So once the approving manager is happy with that, they want to accept it, they can come back to this home page and click approve straight here. If they want to go into the leave application, they can click edit. So the approving manager will be able to make a few changes to the leave application. So the first change they can do is the type of leave. If they know that the employee was actually supposed to apply for personal leave for this one, they can change that there. And they can also change the dates or even the hours applied. They'll be able to add any comments themselves. And there's also an audit trail down the bottom here, so you can see exactly what's been happening with the leave application. There's also the option to redirect a leave application. So if you've got another approving manager in your company that you want to redirect it to, you can choose another person here and redirect that leave application. They will then have the final say in whether the application is approved or not. So once they're happy with that here, there's a few options at the top. So they can approve the application, they can hold the application, which means they can put the application on hold until a certain date if they don't want the leave to be automatically redirected to somebody else. They can decline the application, or they can cancel the application. So with those options there, decline and cancel will mean the employee will need to apply for the leave again. But if they're happy with that, they can click approve, and the leave application will then be approved. The employee will receive an email straight away to let them know that it has been approved, so that they know exactly what's happening with that leave application. So up until this point, there hasn't been much of a need between the payroll person. It's been more of a kind of step-by-step between an employee and a manager. So for the payroll person to pay out these leave applications, what they need to do is go to the leave payment tab that's on the left-hand side here. So if you have more than one payroll in your company, you'll be able to choose the payroll that you want to process the leave for in this drop-down box here. Once you've chosen the payroll, any leave applications that are to be paid out in the dates that it has across the top here will show. So because I just chose random dates for our leave application, the leave application isn't actually showing here, but I can show you an example on an old application that's been submitted. So if we have a look here, there's two options we can do to pay this to the open payroll. So as we can see, there's 8.2 hours approved, and there's still 8.2 hours to be paid out to the employee. So there's two options to pay this out. We can either manually put 8.2 hours in here and then submit the hours to payroll. The other option is that we can click the autofill pay hours button. Once we click autofill pay hours, the system will acknowledge any payments that need to be paid in this payroll. If there's payments that are in the future, 6 months in the future or something like that, the system will know automatically that they're not to be paid out in this payroll. And when you click autofill pay hours, it will leave the pay hours as 0. So you don't need to worry about paying leave early or anything like that. So once you've clicked autofill pay hours, we can submit the pay to the open payroll now. So now that we've submitted to the payroll, it will bring up an event listing, and it will just tell you basically if there's any warnings or errors that have occurred, and it will just tell you exactly what's been processed into the payroll. So they're updating the annual leave hours to 8.2, and they're reducing the ordinary hours to negative 8.2. So that balances out the ordinary hours that are automatically populated into the system. So what we can do now is have a look at our open payroll. So if we look at our weekly payroll here, so what you can see here, this is the leave application we've just pushed through. So as you can see, it's grayed out, so we won't be able to make any changes to that, but it has been successfully moved to the payroll to be paid to the employee. So this is our payroll, open payroll screen. So to run a payroll, it is just 4 easy steps. As you can see at the top, we've got to update employees' hours worked, check verification reports, run payroll and create reports, and then pay employees and create bank file. So on this page here, you'll be able to see the start dates and accounting dates for your open payroll. And going down, you'll be able to see the input sheet for that payroll period. So you'll be able to see it's kind of like an Excel format where you've got the employees' names down the side, we've got our pay codes at the top, and everything that we've entered into the system is automatically populated. So we've got our ordinary hours for each employee automatically populated here. And if we had any other default values, they would be automatically populated as well. So what's really good about this, even though that a lot of this is automatically populated, you can still make any changes that you need to. So if you know that an employee has worked less hours for that fortnight, you can change that there. Or if you even need to give another payment to an employee. So if we go across here and we need to pay a car tax allowance, we can enter that manually as well and save the changes. So a lot of the information is populated, but there's still that option to manually change anything if you need to. So once you're happy and you've had a look over the hours here and you want to check everything's correct, we can go to step 2 and check verification reports. So the check verification report step will basically just run the payroll in a kind of sandbox environment where it will give you some figures and an overall look at the payroll in a bit more detail. So there's 3 types of reports that will generate at this step. The first one is the event listing. So the event listing is similar to the event listing that we saw when we pushed through the leave to the open payroll. So it'll bring up warnings or errors that you may need to pay attention to. So warnings are only warnings. You can still move ahead with your payroll and you can still finalize and pay your employees, but the system is just flagging things that you might want to make changes to before you proceed. So for example, there's some warnings here about a tax file number being lodged. So these employees haven't had their tax file number updated in the system. So the system's flagging that because the tax rate for those employees will be getting taxed marginally, and that might be something you want to change before you make the payment to make sure that they're getting taxed at the lower rate. If there were any errors at this step, that's when you would need to go back to step 1 and fix those errors before you continued with the payroll. Next, we've got the exception report. So the exception report will show you any changes between the last payroll you run and the payroll that you are running today. So this will show any changes in cost center details, in bank account details. As you can see here, it's showing differences in gross pay. So for example, last pay the employee was paid this much, and this pay they're getting a little bit less. So it will show you the difference. So if you know they're meant to be getting the exact same payment as last week, but it's showing a difference here, you know that you can go back to step 1 and make those changes as necessary. So that's a really handy report to make sure to check at this step. The last report, which is probably the most important at step 2, is the transaction report. So this will break down the payments into employees, and it will show you exactly how everything's calculated, including the super calculations and the tax calculations. So you can check that all here. So you can make sure that the tax is getting correctly calculated, and the 9.5% super is getting correctly calculated here as well. So you can check each employee. Or on the very last page, there's also a company total. So you can see an overall total for this payroll that's getting paid. So if you have an overall idea of what you need to be paying out on this payroll and it doesn't match the figure that's showing on this transaction report, you know you can go back to step 1 and make those changes. But overall, if you're happy with all the details that you see in these 3 reports, we can go to step 3 and run the payroll. So running the payroll will do a few more things than step 2. It will generate a few more reports. that you can check before you finalize the payroll fully. So there's two types of reports that will generate here. We've got the payroll reports. We've also got the month-end reports if it's the last payroll for that month. So if we have a look here, they do take a few minutes to generate. So some of the payroll file reports that our clients tell us are really useful are the entitlement report. So the entitlement report will give an overall for each employee and their annual leave and personal leave and long service leave balances. It'll also give a notional dollar value to that, so you know exactly how much is kind of sitting there for each employee. Another really handy report is the payslips report that you can print out, so you have copies of the payslips for all the employees. And there's also a transaction report that you can download that's similar to the report at step 2 of the payroll. The month-end file reports aren't generated here because it's not our last payroll for the month on this account. But some of the reports that generate at this step that people find very useful is the payroll month-end summary report, which will give you either monthly, quarterly, and year-to-date figures for tax, super, all that kind of information. It will also give you some information for the super liability, so it will give you a report where you can view all the super amounts that are generated in that month. So once you're happy with those reports and you've checked everything and you want to finalize and pay your employees, we can go to step 4. So go to step 4 does a few things. So it will create an event listing again so that you can see before you finalize it if there is anything you want to change. And then if you're happy with that, we click create bank file. So once we click create bank file, a few things happen in the system. So the first thing to happen is that the next open payroll is automatically generated. So you don't need to make any manual adjustments to the payrolls each week, because the system will do that as soon as you mark this one as paid. If you're also integrated with an accounting software, it will bring up the data to send over to your accounting software for you to check over. If you're happy, you can submit those journals to your accounting software. You'll also be able to download, if you're set up and you want to pay your employees via a bank file, you'll be able to download that bank file at step 4 here as well. So yeah, that's basically it for the running a payroll. It is, as we just saw, 4 easy steps for you to go through to be able to process a payroll. Going through it with you now, it's taken maybe 10 minutes going through it in detail. So if you do have a very straightforward payroll, it can easily take a few minutes. So that's everything on the system that we're going to have a look at today. So I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint and just go through a bit more things with you and have a look at our packages that we offer as well. So why should you choose ePayroll? So as you just saw, ePayroll does save you valuable time. You can process your payroll in just 4 easy steps. It's got an intuitive user interface, and ePayroll is available anywhere, anytime. We also offer on-demand reports, which are available 24/7. Employees can access their own payroll and leave information whenever they need it, and you can conveniently keep all employee data in a single system using custom fields and notes. We also automatically integrate with your general ledger software, so you can not worry about having to manually enter that information into your accounting software. We also do offer world-class training, which is available face-to-face or via online webinars like this one. And we do have an online help centre if you do need access to support outside of normal business hours. So you can stay compliant with ePayroll. It is cost effective, just a simple monthly payment, and there is no term contracts. We do have several packages and add-ons to suit your needs, and it does cost less than comparable payroll software. We can also maintain your payroll and tax compliance with automatic interface with tax office and super funds, and we do data checks that validate your information in your account. ePayroll is secure and reliable, and we do offer quality support with 98.5% of client inquiries responded to within 4 hours. We are also one of the few payroll systems to fully support STP direct to the ATO. So if that's something that you need added onto your account as well, then please get in touch with us. So this is our pricing and packages. So our standard pricing for our simple payroll package is just $5 per employee per month, and this includes all the payroll standards, so including employee self-service, leave management, PAYG and payroll payments, employee onboarding, and GL integration, and so much more. If you do want to add on some additional add-ons, we do have a time and attendance which we use, which is called Synchronize. So employees can enter their timesheets into the system, and you can automatically integrate that into your open payroll, so you don't need to be manually changing the employees' hours. We also often offer award interpretation, so that's something that we can add onto your account, which would be dependent on what your award is and everything like that. So if that's something you want to set up on your account, you'd need to get in touch with us, and we would have to look into how we set that up for your award. The last option here is assisted payroll. So assisted payroll is kind of a step between a managed solution and a self-service, where you would enter all your own data into the system and then submit your payroll to us at the support team. We would then go over your payroll and check it's compliant, check that everything's correct, and then pay your, mark your payroll as paid and pay the employees. So if you haven't already, you can start your free trial today. It's just a simple monthly payment with your first 30 days of free, and you can cancel at any time within those first 30 days. After your free 30 days, you can still cancel at any time. We just require a 30-day notice period. So if you do have any questions, you can contact our support team. Our phone number is 1-800-372-976, or you can send us an email to support@epayroll.com.au. So that's it for today's presentation. If you have any questions, please now's the time to enter them in, and I can answer any questions. We have gone a bit over time, so I won't be able to get through many questions at the moment, but if I can't get to your question, then just send us an email or give us a call at the details on the screen, and we will be more than happy to answer any questions you have. If you don't have any questions, you can leave the webinar now, and you can contact us later if you do think of anything. So our first question here is, do the employees have a chance to fill out a timesheet for each fortnight? So if you choose our time and attendance add-on to your package, you'll be able to use the timesheets, and we can set that up for your pay cycle. So if you've got a fortnightly pay cycle, the employees will be able to enter their hours for the fortnight, and then you'll be able to push those hours into the payroll to pay it out. So I've got another question about single touch payroll. So single touch payroll has been introduced for employers with over 20 employees as of the 1st of July 2018. So if you do have over 20 employees in your company, you'll need to get in touch with us so we can turn that feature on your account to make sure that you're reporting correctly to the ATO. If you have under 20 employees, it's not compulsory for you to report to the ATO via STP yet. As of the 1st of July 2019, you will need to. But if you'd like to start reporting to the ATO via single touch payroll now, that is still a possibility, and you'll just need to get in contact with us so we can add it onto your account as well. So if you only have one employee, you won't need to report to STP until 1st of July 2019. It's not compulsory for employers with under 20 employees yet. So you won't need to for this financial year. So we've got another question. At the initial setup, there's an asterisk on standard hours. What if the casual don't have standard hours all week? So if it's a casual employee, you would need to enter 0 as their standard hours, because you're not as their casual. It could fluctuate. So you would enter 0 for their standard hours there, and the system would then calculate their salary off that. So you'd enter their hourly rate or salary into the system, and then they would get paid at that hourly rate or salary. Okay, so I've got one last question that I have time for today, which is in regards to automating super payments. So we do offer to pay your super payments for you. We act as a clearinghouse and we use Click Super. So we would just need to get you to fill out a super direct debit form, and we get your bank account details to be able to take the payments from, and then we would pay that to the employee's super funds on your behalf. So you can make sure that you're staying compliant with super payments, and we can do that quarterly or monthly. Okay, so that was all the times I had questions for. There are a few more questions I can see that I haven't had time to get to. So I've got your details here, and I can send you an email or give you a call and answer any questions that I haven't had time to answer today. So please don't worry about that. I'll get back to you shortly in regards to any of those questions. If you think of any more questions in the meantime, please don't hesitate to contact us on the screen, on the details on the screen. We'll be more than happy to answer. Right, thank you for everyone who came today, and I hope you all have a great day.